I do like Chef.
Love me some Chef, but let's do it.
Watch it! Boom!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with episode number 94 of Hyperspace Hype. I thought we were a little higher, but I guess not. We're getting there. We're almost closing the gap.
I always get confused between our My Cup of Tea and our Hyperspace Hype reviews. Where are we? Where do we go from here? Nathan, we made it.
We made it.
Did we miss a week of Mando this season? I don't think we did.
No,
in terms of
just
like
we were covering Celebration. We were like, oh yeah, and Jack Black happened.
That was the 1 week where like there's like 3+ hours of news sprinkled in there. Our Mando episode, what was it? Season 3, episode 6 review. Yeah, that was an episode. But man, we made it to the end of The Mandalorian season 3. It feels just like yesterday we finished season 2, or at least we're just talking about season 3. It feels like yesterday the season dropped and now it's over.
And yet again, Luke Skywalker came flying in, baby. He liberated Mandalore. He force choked Gideon. Didn't see that coming.
It was wild. No.
Ragnar actually was Ben Solo. Twist of the century. Went to the academy.
I want to go back and listen to our predictions last week, because dare I say, I made a joke. I was like, you know, it'd be really funny, Nathan, if Jon Favreau had the balls to just kill off Gideon in season 3. But that'd be weird. That'd be stupid, right? He's such an awful character. There's no way they just kill him off at the end of season 3 when there's like future stuff leading up to, and then, you know, they kill him off. Spoiler.
Did they?
Don't do this to me.
Did they?
Oh my god.
He was wrapped in Beskar.
Yeah, those Beskar, yeah.
Was his helmet on? I don't remember.
Yeah, he had the full armor on, yeah.
When the fire engulfed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's fine.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't
he's
bring
fine.
Him back.
No,
why? He's over.
I'll be more pissed that like it's still nothing. Because if it's true, again, it's like, I mean, it's a different thing than Ben Solo, but it's like, you know, I would be more pissed knowing it is definitely the end. There's no way.
See, I'm pissed, but I'm content and I'm happy because I gave 0 fucks about the character. Sorry, I love Giancarlo, and he kills it. I mean, his delivery is always good, no matter what the writing is. But like his delivery is always good, and he kills it every show he's on. And
you know what?
Yeah.
You know, I think the issue is that I think some of our favorite roles of Giancarlo, whether it's from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul or The Boys, he, you know, with his own flair, he kind of feels like Thrawn-esque in those shows, always like knows where things are going. Because we already have a Thrawn here, we got one already. But we want Giancarlo, but we can't just make him Thrawn. So,
yeah, because they want an imposing villain who's a cut above the rest, you could say. And I don't know. I think Gideon was a hit and a miss, and it kind of does leave a taste in my mouth. I'm like, was all this just to, you know, prep us for Thrawn? That's what it just seems like now. It's like, everything's wrapped up in a bow.
Felt pretty.
Here's season 4 where we're getting Thrawn and the Mando versus the Imperials. There was a lot more setup than I was expecting. It's not as blatant of a setup as like an Ahsoka backdoor pilot or a Boba Fett backdoor pilot or a Luke mentioned in the finale. But it didn't feel natural, this ending of the episode and season as a whole. And that's one of my main criticisms up top is where I had fun with the episode. I think it's a fun episode. Mando is never boring for me.
I think if you watch episodes 7 and 8 like as one big cut, it's like, wow, what a ride.
I agree. That'll be better. I think episode 7's a tighter, more concise episode, not knowing what's ahead. But
8 does kind of head into the in a shorter format, but kind of like the Return of the King conclusion route. Hitting like, okay, we're going here. Goes like we got the living waters and Navarro and
yeah, there's so many there's so many different narratives that they had to conclude. Where Return of the King is like the epitome of like a perfect ending. This one felt like it's trying to strive for a solid and heartwarming conclusion, and I did admire that. I admired how tonally opposite it was from like the Bad Batch season 2 finale. But this one was welcoming in how wholesome and heartwarming it was. For me, though, it just didn't feel well earned, given the messy narrative of the season and what took place during this finale. I felt like it was a la-di-do-da-day, and Mando's happy, and we're living happy ever after. And I'm like, I like the ending, I like where we got, but the road to get there wasn't what I was expecting, and it wasn't as fulfilling as I was hoping for or expecting. It wasn't as complex and gratifying for me.
The season gave me what I wanted too soon.
Yes. That's a great way of saying that. Like, it gave me what I wanted. Yeah, good word. We're too soon in the sense that, like, is Din's personal growth, are they telling me is like complete in terms of like his fatherly attributes with Grogu? Because I'm like, I don't want to mention. I keep mentioning Tross in this episode in these podcasts, but it's like people after The Last Jedi were like, well, Tross didn't have anywhere to go after The Last Jedi. Like, where do you go from here? And I always disagree with that. I think The Last Jedi had some very interesting and a lot of plot threads to lead up to. But what I'm getting at is that for Mandalorian, with this finale, I'm like, okay, what is it? I know it's setting up Mando versus the Imperials because the inevitable Mando versus the Thrawn Imperial remnant. That's happening, of course, as we know with Ahsoka and as we know with the recently announced New Republic film by Dave Filoni. Mm-hmm. But almost lost my train of thought there. But what I'm getting at is like for Din's personal journey outside of his like motives versus the Imperials, his personal journey doesn't feel complete to me. But I think the show is trying to tell me that it is complete with him sitting on the porch with Grogu. I'm like, so what's there for Din to emotionally or personally challenge himself with? Is the show even caring about that? Because this is an issue I've had with since season 1 and season 2 especially, where I'm just like, am I putting too much into this show? And I think I am, but I realized that at the end of season 2, so I braced myself for season 3. But then season 3 started off, and I'm just like, okay, we're starting off with some interesting places, but those places never went anywhere, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you put too much. I feel like, where we leave season 2 and, with different setup and lead up to where we start off with season 3, feels like we're setting up some like big things, and, it's not wrong to assume like, oh, we're gonna go pretty bombastic, because even a lot of these Star Wars shows, they've gone pretty big, as small scale as the TV is.
You're right, Nathan. Because I think I'm not putting too much into this show because I'm observing what Jon Favreau is putting down in terms of his mythological storytelling. He's a big mythological Joseph Campbell like acolyte in terms of like really following the hero's journey and all those kinds of materials. So I'm picking up what he's putting down, but I don't think I'm trying to be as nice as I can here. I don't think Jon Favreau is fully diving into the Campbellian archetypes. He's getting there with the like overall structure, which I appreciate and I like, but I don't think he's digging deep in an interesting and compelling way. I got to bring up Willow. I think Willow is like the best Disney Plus show next to Andor. And I think Willow really, especially with the finale, it crafts a subtle and blatant journey for both the heroine characters, the hero characters, while leaving room for growth. Like, it just ties everything up in a very nice, compelling, mythological, satisfying way, while leaving room for more. And I think this show wanted to tie things up while leave room for more, but it just didn't really get there 100% of the way. Not to say I think it failed completely. As I said, I think the structure's there, but I don't think the inner character struggle or the inner character journey that I was hoping for both Din and Bo, I don't think those narratively succeeded. Because leading into this finale, I was hoping for, and I think I said this in my last week's episode, where I'm like, all I want from this finale is how is Din and Bo's arc concluded? And structurally, I think they concluded pretty fine. Bo doesn't end up going her own selfish route, which I thought was going to be the case for her and the Armorer. No, they're very heroic characters from beginning to end, which, okay, that works for me. I just thought, personally, it would be narratively compelling to have the Armorer, do something different. But I'll get to that later in the episode. But for Bo retakes Mandalore, retakes the Great Forge, unites her people. It's what she always wanted. It's what she deserves. And I'm happy for that. But again, the route to get there, I don't think was fully compelling or interesting. As I'll get there in a second. But just to preface with, I think, and I saw this, I forget where I'm getting this from. It might have been Star Wars Explained. It might have been somebody else, maybe Jalen. I forget who I was talking to. But I think Bo-Katan's journey here was very interesting. I think she was the star of the season for a vast majority of it. But a lot of things happened to her. She's a very receptive protagonist where things are happening to her and she's reacting due to it. But I never got a full big reaction, or never got a full big character decision or moment for Bo-Katan that I wish she did have. And the same thing for Din. Things happen to him, and I'm waiting for him to talk about it, or discuss it, or be challenged, or to challenge something, and he doesn't. But again, I like their endings, but I think once again the road to get there was a hurdle. So yeah, there's a lot to say here with The Mandalorian season 3, a lot to say here with everything else here. So let me go to my show notes before I just start rambling. What were your overall impressions about this finale before I begin?
Well, let me think, because I'm a couple days removed and I didn't refresh. But let me just.
I got show notes out the ass for.
But in terms of how I was feeling, it's so funny because I'm watching along, and we had said last week, oh man, I'm really looking forward to seeing Din in interrogation, just talking with Gideon. Never made it to the room. I was watching live. I was like, oh, me and Evan are gonna talk.
No, that's literally my first note right here. Din is captured, but immediately freed by Grogu, who appears out of nowhere. It removes the tension from the scene.
I don't know how Grogu's so versatile with 2 joysticks to.
I know, right? That was weird.
I can suspend disbelief, but
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, okay, yeah. Let's start there, because this is not in a super egregious moment amongst other egregious moments in season 3. What it just exemplifies things that could have gone a bit better. Din gets captured at the end of that last week's episode, and as you said, me and you predicted, we're gonna get finally a discussion. I think we both even said we'd rather have them talk than fight, even though the fight was going to be inevitable in this finale. I wanted them to just talk. Can we have a bigger discussion? Because that's what I wanted from season 2 before it was rudely interrupted by the Darksaber fight, and then Bo-Katan, and then Luke. I'm like, I wanted Gideon's supposed to be like this big antagonist for our characters, and he is an antagonist, an effective antagonist against the Mandalorians, right?
Didn't we say one week that we were like, the man thinks he's playing chess, but he's playing checkers?
Exactly. Yeah, he thinks he's much smarter than he really is. But I think Gideon serves as an adequate antagonist against Mandalorian culture and Mandalorians as a whole, right?
He's a high functioning obstacle for sure.
Exactly, right? Where on the subtextual of it all, it's like, oh, Mandalorians were a religious group who had a lot of infighting, similar to the Imperials, as I mentioned last week. Mandalorians were infighting, Imperials are always infighting, but Moff Gideon thrives off of that chaos, and he wants the Mandos to be like as separated as possible. But then he also wants to adopt their culture at the same time, which is very fascinating. He wants to have, like I said last week, the best of Mandalorians, Jedi, and the Empire to create something stronger, something better. He always wants to take. While Mandalorians, they have their culture and their religion and their creed, but when they come together, they don't take, they unite, and they do the opposite of Moff Gideon and his plans. And the season 3 as a whole was all about unity versus like chaos, unity versus infighting, and I think the finale succeeded in that sense. But again, on a personal level, Moff Gideon just failed to hit the bar, and we could have had a very cool personal scene between him and Din as just two people, one of them getting interrogated, we missed out on. I think it was a very big missed opportunity. One of my favorite scenes from the sequel trilogy as a whole is the first interrogation scene between Rey and Ben. I think it's just very effective character work, all done via an interrogation scene where Ben is like just observing her for who knows how long. And then he's trying to like peer into her mind, and she's fighting back, and you first see him without his helmet on, and then it's a great back and forth.
On the ashes of his enemies.
On the ashes of his enemies, right? Yeah.
What a weird, again, forever a weird detail to add after the fact that you didn't have to do. And doesn't fit anything of the character you're writing.
Ashgate was something else for all the Bendemptionists in 2016. Or it was 2015 when the Visual Dictionary came out. People were like, oh, you think Ben can be redeemed when he has the ashes of his enemies? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Didn't say it on film.
Yeah.
For all I know, it's a fireplace.
I'm like, this guy can go on to kill 20 more people. He would still be redeemed by episode 9. And I was right. Anyways.
Yeah, Vader.
Exactly right.
But where's my R-rated Vader film?
Oof.
I will say, because this thought popped in my head, and just in terms of Gideon, I don't know if it's the expectation because we're on a longer format with television, but I don't necessarily hate in retrospect that Gideon isn't mega fleshed out, because when we watch sequel trilogy we have plenty of enjoyment with Snoke. He wasn't very fleshed out. It was just his effect on the characters we're watching, and granted that's what Gideon has done for especially Bo-Katan, I think, in the overall retrospect.
But yeah, I talked about this last week where I'm like, the Emperor was hardly in the original trilogy, but he's effective because of his beautiful interactions with Luke and Vader in Return of the Jedi. That's what really makes his character stand out and makes him iconic in terms of all-time villains. It's just that original trilogy alone. The prequel trilogy then adds to his iconic flair, whatever you want to call it.
I think a big thing with it is that when you think of the big meaning with Palpatine is especially poignant. Same with Snoke. It's because by the time I've already spent with either Ben or Kylo Ren or Darth Vader, because they're fighting for what their masters are trying to instill. So when we get there, it's like, I see the big grand scheme of it all. And Gideon didn't really have anybody that was like working under him for us to get really familiar with. And in the retrospect, when we started seeing like the big Thrawn picture coming in, we started thinking, well, maybe Gideon's supposed to be the Thrawn lackey, and then spend more time with that. But we didn't get that far.
It didn't get that far. Yeah,
just not enough time, really.
Yeah, we had 3 seasons, which is just baffling to me.
They keep saving him just for the last 2 episodes exclusively.
Wild, Nathan. He's
every
our
season
main antagonist, and he was in episode 7 and 8 of season 1. He was in
episode 7 and 8
of
season 3. Season 2, he is 30 seconds of episode 4 and the finale.
In the finale, yeah. And I'm just like, wow, why? And especially this season when he was taken to prison, and we could have got our freaking, I keep mentioning this, like the Catalyst episode, where it's just like, you see him in prison, you see what he's cooking, what is he thinking, then you lead up to a prison escape sequence, and then you can kind of get to where you see him in this season. But for some reason, they skipped through his prison escape sequence so we can lottie do that to him in episode 7, just being like, oh, I'm back now. Hey, Kane, what are the Mandos up to? Oh, the Mandos are united. I got to go fight them. It's like, what?
It's so odd because there's so many shows where like our main antagonist will go to prison and it's just as captivating, if not more so, because you know he'll eventually get out and you want to see what the domino effect is going to be to lead to that.
They're in a vulnerable position. Those are the most interesting when our villains are set in a very vulnerable and unique situation to what they're previously used to, right? Like Daredevil season 3, Kingpin in prison. It was super fascinating. That's where he can interact with the prison structure and interact with like characters like Frank, the Punisher. And then just other villains. I hate bringing up like peak fiction, but like Better Call Saul in Breaking Bad, he's ever present. He gets a backstory. Even if you don't want to go that far, you can just go do something a little bit less so with The Boys. The Boys is entertaining, not one of my favorite shows of all time, but it's an entertaining show. And I think Giancarlo does a lot there in terms of not having a lot of screen time, but still being ever present, still having a lot to say individually to characters like Homelander. Those back and forth is what I want.
It's amazing how like even something like The Boys, where there's literal god level superheroes in comparison to human strength, and you see a scene with his character and Homelander, and he holds all the power in the room, and you're hanging on every word.
Exactly. It's super fascinating.
It's so odd that like for Star Wars to be like you have Giancarlo, and he's always so enthusiastic whenever he's around the conventions or anything or doing press.
He's so in love with his character.
Yeah. And so, you know, he could clearly be willing to do more, but you won't give him more, and I don't know why.
I don't know why. I'll say what I have to say by the end of the episode here, but I think Jon Favreau just needs to be reined in, or I don't want to use that phrase exactly, but like he just needs just some more writers. We have some great directors on board, and I think Rick coming on was nice, but Rick came on for this season, and this season was a mess. So I don't know. I think his direction was great. Rick's direction was great, but I don't know what I'm looking for with Mando. I don't know if Jon Favreau knows what he's looking for with Mando, besides just playing with his toys.
I know I just said like you're not putting too much into it, but maybe we've lost sight of what they had sight on, which was, you know, just the Saturday morning cereal that Star Wars was based on.
The Flash Gordon, the popcorn cereal. And then that's what I embraced after what I experienced in season 2, where I'm just like, I know a lot of people love season 2. For me, I had a back and forth with season 2. And I'm just like, I kind of embrace it as just like the Saturday morning cartoon where shit happens. It's fun. Don't think too deep. But then they do these things that pull me back in. And I'm just like, oh, okay, Favreau. Okay, I see what you're cooking. But then he doesn't cook. He lets it just fizzles out.
We get some like super intimate emotional moments. And then next thing you know, it's like, not this time, Mandalorian. Haha.
I'm just like, what are you doing? I'm having emotional whiplash. I'm having narrative whiplash with what you're presenting, with what I'm getting, which is just a lot. All that
it is just like really funny just seeing in retrospect Gideon's no more than like the old school Bond villain hooking you up to the laser about to cut you in half while he explains his evil plan.
Oh, we'll get to the evil plan delivery because that was something else. I was just like, what am I watching?
I mean, I like the plan. I wish I could have seen some.
I see
fruition.
I
understand the like beating it before it happens, but getting it some semblance of like what the power of the threat.
Yeah, I see. Like, part of me was like, yes, part of me agreed with you where it would have been interesting to see his creations. But on the second hand, I'm like, all I really wanted to know was his plan. Like, what is his plan? What motivates him? What's he trying to achieve? And we get that in one quick line. I'm trying to do these clones and force-sensitive clones and yes, and then fight, and then I'm dead. I'm just like, whoa. Like, everything happens so freaking quickly that it doesn't, like, really set in for me, like, his overall plan. Like, he says it in one line. It's what people were thinking since 2019. And then it just ends. It's like, okay. I didn't need it to be, like, completed or anything. I just wanted more time with it, I guess. I don't know. It's similar to not similar to what I was praising in Bad Batch this season with Dr. Hemlock from like, I'm very curious what his plans are. Slice spoiler. I'm very curious what Dr. Hemlock is constructing with these clones. What does he really want with the clones? And then in the finale or in an episode called The Summit, he explains to Tarkin, like, I want a whole society built on these clones so then we can have subservient people within our empire. I think there's more to it. But I like just having that little tease and then having a full season 3 next season for that festering, more explanations, more subtext added to what his plans are. Like, but for this one, it's just like one quick line about what his plans are, and then it's fight time, and I'm just like, okay,
I think it's like a matter of like in comparison, like the type of villain that Giancarlo plays. They all feel very similar. And we like it, but in comparison to Hemlock versus Gideon, it's like when you see a Giancarlo villain, it tends to be playing up that charming businessman, basically, who's obviously doing malicious evil, and that's what's captivating about is that he can just like hook his way through these scenarios, and it's like, oh, okay, it's interesting, but like we don't really do business conduction in Star Wars like that because you've made him a military man leading with superpowers, whereas like Hemlock, we're putting him in the setting of we are doing crazy scientific stuff. It's mad scientist, right? He's just the way he speaks, it feels very sleazy, and when he's doing like human experimentation, it just unsettles your skin with all the delivery, and it all fits perfectly in that wrapping of Star Wars.
I agree. Yeah, it had like the horror, disturbing feel to it. The whole like tanks of like clones, stuff like that. That was really nice. Yeah. Like, again, I like the atmosphere of it all. It just I don't think the execution was fully there.
It feels like that's something they're trying to do again too. I mean, the fact that like they launched the whole thing to like take out Pershing, which I guess is just dead now.
The Pershing thing was just gone. I'm like, we had no resolution whatsoever with Pershing. I totally forgot about that. Like the whole Elia Kane Pershing thing was interesting from Kane's perspective. Like, okay, I guess he's working for Gideon, and then it was confirmed he's working for Gideon. But the whole Pershing thing it didn't go anywhere for me. And I guess he's just like, I don't know. I have no idea why we spent an entire episode following Kane, persuading Pershing. I was so involved with that. I was so intrigued by it. And then he gets his mind fucked. I'm just like, whoa, wow, this is disturbing. I like this episode. But then it doesn't lead anywhere. It's just to show us that Kane is bad.
Well, I guess it was more so to have loose ends tied up, I guess. Because Pershing obviously wanted to expand his cloning.
But then couldn't they have used Pershing then? That's what I figured.
I guess they were done, right? I guess he cracked the code on the clones, and he didn't want him. He didn't want anybody else to obtain the power of cloning that Pershing figured out.
I don't know, fam. I don't know, because then Kane is seen persuading him. Because if Kane was in episode 3, because he keeps reminding himself, like, I want to do it for science. I want to do it for science. But Kane is the one giving him the snacks, right? The biscuits, right? Egging him on, leading him to his ship. Like, why are you doing all that? Or you could have just stopped in general, and then he wouldn't have had the access, and he would have just been going about his daily life. And then that would have been it.
Well, maybe, but I think they wanted they're evil, right? They're space Nazis. They wanted to be thorough.
To be thorough, you be okay. It seems.
I think it's a matter of like that. There was no other fluent way to put him into the mind scrambler other than to persecute him to do so.
I guess,
and then rig it.
But my thing was, if you plan on doing nothing with Pershing's character anyways, then just don't interact with Pershing. Just let him do his own thing, and he wouldn't have had the access to do anything. He just would have been a guy saying, "I miss science," while he types papers all day.
Never know what he could have done in the future.
I guess
it's like Hydra and Winter Soldier targeting the people that can move against him.
Yeah, Doctor Strange. Here we go.
Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange.
Wait, what?
No, I mean, anyway. Yeah, I like that though. I remember 2014. I was like, Stephen Strange.
That surgeon, right? Oh my gosh. We gotta watch out for a surgeon.
I mean, he is the best surgeon in the world, my man.
I'm sure. Couldn't even save his own hands.
How do you do that? Evan, how do you do that? Oh, hey. Nope.
Not gonna work.
He couldn't move him.
But where were we? So yeah, Din was captured, immediately freed. It was weird.
Oh gosh. Okay.
That's where we were. But I said here in my notes, like it removes attention right from the beginning of the episode, kind of teasing you what you're in for here. But I forgot I also had my notes that it could have led to an interesting parallel to last season where Nathan, last season, his helmet was removed. In this finale, his helmet isn't removed at all. We theorized
never see him.
We theorized in this possible interrogation scene that never happened, he would get his helmet removed, and he'd have to struggle between shit. Do I have to redeem myself again, or did he just embrace it like Bo-Katan embraced living both sides? That's the narrative that was right there. It was right there.
I even got to the point where I was watching. I was like, okay, well, if we're not gonna be locked up, and we're round one fight, I say what I say every season. I'm like, maybe they'll damage his helmet.
I was hoping for that too.
Maybe they'll finally do it. And
I thought what happened during the Praetorian Guard sequence, I'm like, oh, these are too strong of a fight for Din and Grogu. It didn't end up being the case. But I wanted one of them, or even Moff, to like break his helmet, and then he had to like look at Bo-Katan during the fight with his eyes, just like, oh, these are stuff that is right there. I'm 26 years old. It's like there's some good stuff that is just left on the table for them. Maybe in future seasons, we'll see. But
like,
again,
imagine the power. Like there was a great sequence in the fight when Din and Grogu get separated, right? Gideon like lassos his neck and pulls him away from the doors they're shutting.
Great stuff.
Now imagine if his helmet was already damaged, and then like you're just seeing Din's eye look in fear as the doors are shutting.
Oh, dude!
Because he can't move.
That's great, and that just goes. Here's another larger discussion about the show, where it's just like, I appreciate the Mandalorian as a character, but him having his helmet on constantly is draining to me. It's starting to drain me, and I know it's like, well, that's the concept of the show. I mean, he's a masked character. That's the concept of the show. Yes, but the show has been telling us, whether it's season 1 where it's masked him off, season 2 where it's masked him off, there's like it
or
just
Bo
like,
right now,
or Bo, right? Like it's possible to live both sides, as the show blatantly said a couple episodes ago. But Din doesn't want to do that. We don't know why, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like the show could have been leading towards him having the ability to keep his mask on. Sure, that's part of your culture, your creed, but also you can take it off whenever you need to, and whenever it serves just as an emotional aspect for the audience to help us get invested a little bit more in the finale or in certain episodes. Just have a plot device take off his helmet, or have like him willingly take off his helmet. That's what I was really hoping for. Just a big character decision by Din himself to make his own choice,
which they did penultimate last season,
like he did in the penultimate season last, which is still one of the best episodes of the entire show. That episode 7 of Mando season 2. Great shit, great stuff. Because him without his helmet on, great dialogue with him and that random Imperial officer.
That was also Rick's episode, wasn't it?
And Bill Burr, Rick's episode, exactly. Rick's best episode, in my opinion. Next episode 2 of season 1.
Kind of shocked they didn't give Rick one of the feature film spots.
Are you though?
All right, I see what you.
It's Dave Filoni.
Yes, that's true.
He's the heir apparent, guys. Come on.
I mean, yeah, he is.
He taught me so much about the Phantom Menace.
This feels exactly like the fucking scene in which Harry Potter was. There's like, so she only likes you because she thinks you're the chosen one. Well, I am the chosen one.
I am the chosen one. Definitely, not definitely. I was Half-Blood Prince, my favorite one. Yeah. But I am the chosen one, Hermione. Boink.
Sorry.
Everybody watch the best Harry Potter movie, Half-Blood Prince. And
watch our last My Cup of Tea to say how the new Harry Potter adaptation is not needed.
Oh yeah, we spent like 15 minutes going over that one. Oh boy. Should we talk about Twilight next Monday too?
There's a big thing going around with the Twilight announcement too, is being like they're in for a rude awakening of realizing that the stories they're adapting is not the reason we love them.
Definitely not. It gets very weird towards the end of the books, apparently. I learned a lot of what I know about Twilight from Mr. Sunday Movies recaps. I'm like, that's what happened in those movies? Holy shit.
I want us to do commentary so bad.
We got to. But that's gonna be painful, dude.
That's
just is it?
Bryce Dallas Howard's in one of them.
What?
Bryce Dallas Howard's in one of them.
And Anna Kendrick,
There's a lot of people actually.
Rob Battenbat, he's in.
Rami Malek is in some.
Rami Malek's in there. Man, what a time.
What a picture.
Like people keep saying, it's 2012 all over again with Harry Potter, Twilight, Hunger Games coming back. Man. Okay, so yeah, so it's so weird that Din never took off his helmet in this finale. It wipes away some of the great emotional potential that this finale could have had. What else do we have here? Yeah, I wrote down a question mark. Is there a plan for Din's character? But I think I'll discuss that towards the end of the episode here. Yeah. But next sequence, rest of the finale is pretty simple. We get Axe flying up for reinforcements. Really cool sequence. Really like the rain, the fire. Like ILM did some great shit here in this finale.
Oh, it was gorgeous. And then one of my favorite parts was when he flew in onto the ship and he landed through the docking bay, and you just like kept running with the momentum.
Yeah, he was like,
"That's so cool."
I was like, "Yeah, like, come on, get out!" It was really
he is
cool.
him.
He is him. Yeah, he's like, everybody dropped. They're like, "Wait, what? Huh? What? Shit."
And everyone abandoned ship, and I got worried. I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
You finally hooked me with your coolness, and I don't want you to just get thrown away. Luckily, he was not.
Yeah, luckily they were fine.
I do like that they the individual Mandos that we've gotten to meet, we are keeping. They haven't just like died in the service of battle. No. They'll be available for future stories. I don't know how deep we'll get into them because it didn't seem like the
not
show
at
was
all
really for that. But it's just the fact that it's possible.
There was I think you shared it. That clip at the end where Axe is with Ragnar.
Yeah.
Or something. It's like, is Axe taking care of Ragnar?
Sure.
We don't know. Does John know? Probably not.
Do we know? Do we care? Does anyone care?
I'll get to the whole Ragnar thing, which blew me for a loop too, because I was like, okay. There was a lot where I'm just like, wait, really? After episode 1, we're still okay. But
we came back to the kid.
Yeah, but
I think it was just showcasing the whole fouling bird. I think it was just like Ragnar is a means for Grogu's indoctrination.
Is he?
He really is when you look at it. It's because every time they present him, it's to present. All right, well now that we showcase on someone who can actually participate in it, we will push it to Grogu. But like Grogu can't. But he's my son now. And I'm sitting there like he always was.
He already was. This was so aggravating to me.
He was yours when you took off the helmet.
He was yours in season 1 finale. I think the armor really actually said it, quoted. I think actually the armor is quoted by saying like, "You are like his father now." In season 1, or at least early in season 2, something along those lines.
She called them a clan of 2 already.
So Din making the decision, which I do like. Let's skip to this part of the finale. Whatever. Din making that choice to say, "I am his father now." Great. Din's actually saying something for once, and it's him making a fatherly decision, accepting that fatherly role. Cool. But it already happened. It felt so hollow to me. I'm like, this was already a thing.
I guess it's just to put a name on what you've already been doing without a label.
I guess. Let's put a label on it. Like, okay, sure. But then Din Grogu, what was it called again? What bullshit was that, Nathan? His name is Din Grogu. Gross.
Yeah, Din Grogu. Awful. You said gross?
Gross. Awful.
Fuck? All right, so
What was this?
All right, so I'm saying. All right, hold on. God damn. Let me catch my breath. Fuck.
Sorry.
All right. All right. Well, I was taking it back too, because I was like Din Grogu, but his name Grogu Jaren. No, like,
are you Japanese?
No, well, that's the thing. Is like apparently I was doing research because since Noah brought up in chat is like if in Japanese culture the surname is pronounced first in the speaking, which it's a cool idea. I like that. We're all speaking English here, but it's
why are we bringing up Japanese culture in the fucking Mandalorian?
I mean, all of Star Wars is done, so. But yeah, so like from that aspect, it's cool. But like that, even if we apply that rules, that implies Din is Din's last name.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm not calling him Jaren.
Din Djarin. It makes no sense that that's his first name.
Which is funny because then I was sitting here today and I was physically saying Jaren Grogu, and if you're in Japanese culture and you hear that spoken, that sounds dope as hell.
Jaren Grogu. Yeah, it sounds like a
Jaren
boss.
Grogu.
I know.
I didn't hear Yuki Tsunade saying that.
That'd be dope.
He's the one Japanese man I always go to.
Oh no!
I'm sorry. He's just the goat.
He's great.
This is Star Wars. How's he not an acolyte?
Oh, he'd be good. He fucking killed it. Acolyte season 2, baby. Bring in Hiroyuki Sanada. Yeah, but that was just so weird. I'm just like
here with this rage.
It was just so weird for him to say like I'm his father now. I'm like, you already were. So it didn't. Again, it's the show trying to wrap a bow around him and Grogu's arc, as in finally him accepting that. But it was unnecessary because we kind of already knew it. But it kind of already needed to be done, I guess, because they wanted to wrap up Din's arc with Grogu, in a sense, which is just adds to my complaint about like what's next for them. Then what's the compelling next step for them?
It's weird. There's
I don't know.
It's weird how they tackle excuse me, how they showcase different scenes of like this functions as such a conclusion, but then there's other scenes that are like, we're leaving the store open. Is that I say it's like the one scene which was the Mythosaur connection to Grogu, which I like.
That was nice. But also like two more things. Like what was I gonna say? Like Din and Grogu's personal journey was kind of wrapped up here, but it didn't leave anywhere. It felt like they want to wrap up a bow about them, but it didn't leave it anywhere. I'm just like, oh, I'm curious to see what's next for them. It felt wholesome. Like, for example, Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi. It's a great example where it's just like, oh man, his father's gone. He's the last Jedi. But it did leave, it was a fantastic conclusion. Yeah. That did leave fans being like, ooh, I'm curious to see what's next for Luke. There's so much potential there for Luke. Yeah. While for Din, I'm just like, I don't know where he can go from here besides just pew pew some Imperials fight Thrawn.
It's funny because he's basically just become a legal bounty hunter with when he goes up to Carson
Teva.
Yeah, we couldn't pronounce it. We forgot it. But
Teva Carson, you mean?
Yes. So it's interesting because when we got to that scene, I was thinking back because back at Celebration, somebody had asked Kathy if Rangers was still on the table, and like many probably she's like, yeah, sure.
Did she say that?
Yeah. She said Rangers is still something that can happen. Well, let me say that in terms of what I saw from this finale, basically what I'm thinking is they have converted Rangers to Carson, the X-Wing pilot's character, not our Carson, and
Carson Teva,
and pulling Din in with it too. And I think basically they're just going to fold, instead of it being its own project, into Mando season 4.
Yeah, which again we've been saying this before season 3 was announced, given like the whole announcement that the climatic event is still coming. This is prior to even Filoni's announcement. I'm like, oh, Mando season 4 is going to be the one finally bringing in the Ahsoka connection in terms of Thrawn and the Imperial Remnant. And that was before season 3 even introduced like the Shadow Council and then the Ahsoka trailer and then the Filoni film. It all but confirmed that season 4 is going to be all about the Imperial Remnant, the growth of that, Din finally fighting that. But then that just seems like such a great plot, interesting plot. But what's the personal journey there for Din? Does he have any personal connection to fighting Imperials outside of him just telling Teva he wants to fight them now?
Well, at this point,
what's the hook? What's the hook?
Well, maybe
besides Thrawn. Thrawn is the hook. That's what it is.
Thrawn is the big threat that we all are gonna face. But I think the hook.
What's the hook for Din?
I think the hook for Din is the Mandalorian culture, and I think the Mandalorian culture will be rallied through Sabine after the Ahsoka show. I think her return to her culture, her people, already in the deep connection with Bo, who's now the, still the leader.
Yeah.
So I think that's how we'll get all squared. Will Boba return? What's he doing? Where's Cobb Vanth? Is he safe? Is he all right?
He's still in the back of tank.
Are we getting a season 2?
I don't need it.
I would like to see more Cobb Vanth.
I think we'll get an Ahsoka season 2 before a Boba Fett season 2.
Although I'll take Cobb and Rangers, which is Mando season 4.
I'll take a Willow season 2. I'll take that for sure.
Evan.
What?
It goes without saying.
What?
It goes without saying. I'll take an Indiana Jones 6.
He's gonna be 90 years old
with Ke-Huy Quan.
Oh, there we go.
I saved it.
But what was I gonna say? Last point about this Ragnar scene was Ragnar itself. I remember I said in episode 1, or what was it, episode 2? One of those episodes. When Ragnar is getting episode 1, when he's indoctrinated by the Mandalorians, but then is rudely interrupted by that weird sea creature. And I said, narratively, that's just telling us that this isn't supposed to happen because XYZ sea creature interrupted it, because it's showing us that the cult is doing some weird shit and it doesn't really need to happen for him to be an actual Mandalorian. But then the show again says, no, and this is kind of the path for Mando season 3 as a whole. The show really didn't challenge the cult at all. It was called a cult for 2 seasons now, mostly in season 2. But we kind of got that vibe in season 1. But mostly season 2 kind of was nailed down by Bo-Katan and by the decision to you have to redeem yourself. That kind of stuff was, or actually redeem himself. That was in Book of Boba Fett. But either way, the idea of the cult was such an interesting, the Children of the Watch, such an interesting group. And I like that in season 3, their main arc is them accepting Bo-Katan's group and allowing others to be different from themselves. I think that's the main premise, goal, whatever you want to call it, end game for Children of the Watch in season 3. Accepting that, hey, we can embrace our culture, but allow others to do what they have to do. Din, when he first met Bo-Katan, was like, what are you doing? You can't take your helmet off. How dare you? But now he learned to see her through his journey with her this season, that she can live with honor. And I think other Mandalorians, when they saw Bo-Katan, or other Children of the Watch, when they saw Bo-Katan, when they saw the finale, they realized, it was illustrated to them that, hey, we can embrace other cultures because we are now one tribe. We are now all Mandalore. But there was never any push and pull between Din and the Watch. Din had to redeem himself, which we all thought collectively as an audience. I think for the most part, I don't want to speak for everybody, but collectively as an audience, we were like, this is weird, right? I think the show is telling us that him having to redeem himself is weird, right? I thought it was, but it was never seen as weird in the show. It was taken at face value, where he had to redeem himself, come back to the armor, and she's like, good, you're redeemed, done. And I appreciated that in the beginning of the season, because I'm like, oh, they're settling it early, which means the rest of the season is going to be him either leaving the Watch or changing the Watch from within. And part B there, changing the Watch from within, was kind of there, where the Watch themselves have changed, like I just said. But Din, as a character, and I keep bringing this up, Din as a character didn't really have any kind of argument, change, or challenge the Watch in any significant way. He didn't say like, hey, I took my helmet off, but I didn't really need to, right? That was never brought up.
Yeah, the perfect opportunity was when the armor walked out and said, Bo-Katan walks both ways. That would have been a perfect chance for him to be like, hold on.
Din was right there in the front row of the audience looking at Bo-Katan, and as an audience, me and you at least, were just like, oh, he's finally seeing somebody that can walk both sides. He has somebody like Grogu. He just took his helmet off in season 2. He redeemed himself. But for what? It was
the perfect opportunity for Din to, get mad, to really, like, you made me feel shame for, I don't know, years, however long time passed. Until I fixed this for you. And then a few weeks later, it's acceptable now.
Bo-Katan, because now we want to retake Mandalore. And I'm like, I get it, because she's different. She wasn't part of the Children of the Watch. Maybe that's why. But still,
I presume it was her seeing the mythosaur, and
it was her seeing
the religion of the armor getting to her.
Yeah, but then, it kind of bums me out for Bo's arc too, because where Bo was stuff was just happening to her throughout the season, and she didn't really grow from it. But I'll get to that later. But yeah, so Din, just whether it's watching Bo-Katan change from the armor or him having to redeem himself, he never took the time, the show never took the time for him to challenge these ideals or to him to say something about it in general. It was just plain and simple. Season 3 just showed us that his redeeming himself was seen as this okay thing for the Children of the Watch. It was never challenged upon. And the Children of the Watch in their creed was never challenged upon, because he never did anything remotely bad or sus in season 3. Like I mentioned, they were pretty good teachers to Bo. They were pretty good teachers to Grogu. They gave him a new plate metal thing on his chest. Armor taught some good ideals to Grogu in episode 5 or whatever it was. They were pretty good, which I like, but also the show's refusing to challenge itself. The show's refusing to challenge the Children of the Watch for what they are, which is a cult. I like that they changed and they accepted Bo-Katan and the others, but I wanted Din to either challenge them or somebody like Bo-Katan to say something, but it was just never brought up. And these are things that just add depth to the show, that are on the table, that are there subtextually and blatantly, actually, but just never come to fruition, which just was very upsetting. I'm just like, okay, Children of the Watch just became Children of the Watch, and nothing really ended up happening. And then going all the way back to the Ragnar scene at the end, it was just like, oh, so Ragnar's getting indoctrinated, and it's complete now. Yay! Nothing got interrupted this time because we're Children of the Watch again. We're doing our same old shit. And I'm like, okay, they're doing the same as they did in episode 1. Nothing really changed except them accepting others, which is still great. I like that they accepted others, but I wanted some kind of internal change between Din and the Watch, and that kind of never happened. But yeah, going back to some of the meat and potatoes of this finale, the battle in the skies was awesome, as like Axe Wolf is coming down crashing. He eventually leaves. Let me see here. The shield sequence with Din, R5 open up the shields with the red door sequence. That was pretty awesome. I really like that stuff.
I like the mouse droids. They were funny.
The mouse droids, very funny. I love that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. Somebody had a tweet that was really funny. That was like, everybody saying like, "Oh no, the Darksaber," and then the one person watching just being like, "Oh my god, mouse droids have sirens."
The Darksaber is getting up there because I have something to say about that too.
Right.
But the mouse droid stuff was very funny. I love mouse droids. Hilarious. Yeah. Wasn't that in episode 8, The Last Jedi, where it's like the mouse droid was like the one that spotted them and kind of like led to the whole tattling on Phasma?
No, it was BB-9E. It was the evil.
Or BB-9E. You're right. Not the mouse droid. Yeah, BB-9E. Which I just love the concept of droids like having a big hand in the plot.
Just asshole droids with like minimal capability.
Exactly.
I'm telling.
Very funny. Shout out to R5 though. R5 put in that work.
They really brought R5 around, and that's pretty cool.
I like it. So yeah, Din walks through the clone facility after the shield sequence. We mentioned it already, but like Gideon is making Force sensitive clones of himself. Nothing ever happens. Din basically destroys them. Good for Din.
Real easy, barely inconvenience.
What?
Really easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, exactly. And then Bo encounters the Green Guardians. I love this sequence where Bo encounters the Green Guardians of Mandalore. Yeah. And kind of ties into the title of the episode, The Return of Mandalore. I talk about this all the time with the Bad Batch, Lucasfilm Animation in general, and overall Star Wars, where the concept of the Mandalorian, especially, wherever Din and Grogu go, and now Bo this season.
A lot of O sounds.
What?
A lot of O sounds.
Oh, Din, Bo, Grogu. But wherever they go, they heal, right? Like they heal Navarro. Navarro became a more flourishing kind of place. And in Mandalore, they finally retake Mandalore, and they're seeing how the grassy gardens of Mandalore still persevered throughout all the trials, throughout the storm of the Imperials wreaking havoc for the last couple of decades. There's still peace, there's still green, there's still life inside of Mandalore that can thrive as long as the Mandalorians theoretically don't get into conflict with one another. If they unite, then Mandalore can truly heal. This was brought up in the Clone Wars. I saw someone on Twitter mentioning how Satine was a big example of that by some of her costume and her character design, and quotes her saying just like she reminisces about like the Guardians of Mandalore and how like outside their city has all been desert, but they wish for a return to Mandalore. And even during the Clone Wars, they were reminiscing about that because she was fighting with her sister. Like it was like internal fighting between Mandalore. It's impossible for Mandalore to heal. On top of that, they had Maul, and then they had the Imperials. Mandalore was just down in the dirt. Even in Rebels, as we saw in season 4, season 3, Mandalore was like a desert, right? Yeah. It wasn't until Sabine came when they finally were like, we can actually do something. And then Satine had the Darksaber. Bo-Katan had the Darksaber. So
damn, wasn't that real thematically emotional? Wasn't Sabine the one who gave the final like schematics to help build the weapon that wiped out the surface?
Yeah, it was deep. And then that's why I love Sabine as a character, because unlike Din, like she's able to verbally showcase her emotions and say like what she was afraid of, her own insecurities with being a Mandalorian and being one that was like instrumental in what happened with Mandalore itself. So Sabine, just all around one of my top 10 characters of all time for Star Wars. But yeah, so yeah, I just love this whole Green Garden scene. It was very filled with a lot of nature. Me with nature in Star Wars, like it's very important. I like that Favreau imparted that here.
Yeah, I have a missed opportunity that we'll get to that falls into that theme.
Okay, yeah, keep that in mind. So we get the Green Gardens. Battle in the skies again was awesome as like the Armor and Bo-Katan fly back down.
Armor was doing a 64 hit combo in the air with their hammers.
Yeah. Imagine going full speed and getting hit in the head with a hammer. You're done.
He pressed triangle and circle a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot of QTEs, quick time events. It was a lot. And then, the rest of my notes, I was like, the fight with Gideon was cool, but Gideon confirming he was making Force-sensitive clones was cool and okay, but like I mentioned earlier, the execution of it all felt hollow to me. It's like, it felt very cheesy and Power Rangers ass, where he's just like, "This is my plan. Now let's fight." And I'm just like, okay. And they had to give him his plan before they killed him off, just so that he wouldn't be an incomplete character. At least now, what? Again, there's nothing. Oh yeah, I think he's still incomplete, but I think people would have been even more pissed if they were like, we had no idea what he was planning. He gets killed off.
Yeah.
But at least now we knew what he was planning. It failed. We saw why, and then he gets killed off.
I was so ready for Thrawn to take him out.
That would have been nice too. But even then, I laughed. I was like, that would be dumb. That would be weird. But at least it would make. But then at least it's interesting that Din, Grogu, and Bo are united. He loses against people that are united against him.
Oh, that was a family that I saw.
That was a family. That was a great sequence where they're just all together. That was a pinpoint of the whole season, right? Them three being the protagonists of the season, finally uniting both their individual cultures, coming together to defeat Gideon, who has nobody. He was alone. He gets destroyed by his own hubris. That was sweet. That was very Star Wars. I really liked that. I wish it felt more earned as a whole, but the scene itself was pretty cool. I really liked them again coming together. I skipped over the whole Praetorian Guard fight, but it was okay. It was weird. It was goofy, but
yeah, there's only so many types of things Grogu can do.
Right? Yeah. But again, I liked that Din and Grogu were fighting together for once. Din accepting Grogu as an actual ally.
Yeah.
And in previous seasons, Din right at the beginning of the episode would have been like, "Okay, Grogu, go with Bo-Katan, go somewhere else. I got this." But no, he's like, "You're with me. Let's do this." I like that. Like father and son were working together finally. I
love the shot where Grogu was out in the open and Gideon was like a millisecond away from shooting him and just knocked his arm out of the way and didn't slid in.
That was cool. Slide to do really cool.
Whatever the sound is.
But overall it was decent. But let's get to this moment, okay? Bo-Katan's fighting Moff Gideon and the Darksaber gets crushed before her eyes. It's very interesting choice here. I said on Twitter, I was like, of course, the Mandalorian season 3 finale, where you get the Darksaber and Gideon destroyed in the same two character beats, introduced in season 1, gone in one episode.
Thematically, cool.
Thematically, I'm on two ways of this.
But it looks so cool.
What did?
The Darksaber.
Yeah, I don't care about the Darksaber. But, two things here. On one point, I like that it was tossed away theoretically, or thematically. It's tossed away / destroyed. Because Mandalorian Season 3 is all about the characters working together, unifying, no matter what their initial creed was saying, right? In Episode 1, Bo-Katan was like, I lost the Darksaber, so my team left me. Axe Woves, the other woman, Sasha's character, whatever her name is.
Koska Reeves.
Axe Woves, Koska Reeves. They left her, other Mandalorians left her because they felt that she was an unjust ruler because she didn't have the Darksaber. That was part of their creed. And then for Children of the Watch, on their side, they didn't want Din because he removed his helmet. Like, these are two characters removed from their own clans because of these creeds, because of the trinkets. So I like that these two characters succeeded in uniting their clans. They're fighting back against the Empire, and personally, they unite to defeat Gideon. But in the consequence, they get the Darksaber destroyed. The Darksaber being destroyed is them saying, we don't need these trinkets. We don't need these things to come together. We can do it personally as individuals. We don't need the Darksaber to unite ourselves anymore. We can do that without it. And they did, successfully. But that being said, the Darksaber is crushed, not by Bo, but by Moff Gideon. And this is a big complaint I've had with Bo-Katan all season, where things are just happening to her. Her home gets destroyed by, we presume now, Moff Gideon. And then she joins Children of the Watch. She's accepted by them. She doesn't initially join them. And then the armor tells her to remove her helmet. The armor tells her that she can walk both sides. The armor tells her that you can unite Mandalore. Din gives her the Darksaber. And then Moff Gideon destroys in front of her the Darksaber. I like that she's able to recover from it and just, again, unite with Din to defeat Gideon. I love that. Yeah. But then things are just happening to her. Compare this to The Last Jedi, where Luke himself is the one to throw away the lightsaber at the beginning of the movie. It's not like Snoke throwing away the lightsaber and Luke being like, well, I didn't need it anyways. I'm stronger. I'm above you. That could have worked. But I like that Luke himself is the one to say, like, I'm doing away with this creed, in his case, the Jedi Order. Granted, we know that wasn't the right thing to do. That's part of his arc, blah, blah, blah. But I think it would have been more effective for Bo-Katan if the Darksaber had to be destroyed in the first place. I would think it would have been effective for Bo-Katan to be the one to throw away the Darksaber and fight Gideon as she proceeded to without the Darksaber, right? Yeah. Like, I think
it's funny. We've after season 2, we initially thought Din was going to be on a journey like that of, he didn't want the Darksaber. He was just like, I don't want it. Like, I don't want this. But people were going to look to him anyway.
I was going to get to that too. I had that mentioned too, where I'm like, the Darksaber being destroyed is great on a thematic and symbolic level because it's kind of necessary. But I would have wanted Din or Bo to be the ones to talk about that or to do the action themselves, not Gideon. I think that ruins a lot of character potential for them. Again, I like that it happened, but I think the way it is executed, once again, could have been done better. I think Bo-Katan doing it would have been good for her character journey, her arc, about what is worthy, what is honor. But also, like you mentioned, Din was the one who had all the promotional material for the Darksaber. It was really building up like him and the Darksaber were going to have some kind of relationship, especially in that episode titled The Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett, where he's training with it. It's too heavy for him, right? Like, the armor is saying you have to train for it. He fought Paz Vizsla to train himself with the Darksaber. I thought
the opening of the season, the second episode, he was fighting with it and it was still too heavy.
It was fighting with it and it was still too heavy. And I mentioned, I was like, oh, that's him like learning that Bo-Katan is better to wield it because she easily defeated that monster, that troll in the bottom there, Mandalore. But also, it was him realizing that like there's a lot of work to do with the Darksaber. None of those things ended up being anything besides him realizing that, hey, the Darksaber belongs to Bo. But then also that is again thrown away because 2 episodes later, Bo-Katan or the Darksaber destroyed anyways. So it's like, did it even matter? Whatever. So yeah, again, I think Din or Bo thematically would have been better for them to have destroyed the Darksaber. That's just my big thing. And then Gideon dies. We mentioned this numerous times already. It's set up to Thrawn. I have here in my notes. It's setting up Thrawn as the main antagonist. While Gideon's gone, Thrawn and the Imperial Remnant are going to be the new big bads moving forward. Still, though, with Thrawn, I have to say again, Din has no personal connections to Thrawn. I would love to be proven wrong and have Din have some good dynamics with Thrawn. But I'm not expecting that at all. No, not at all. It's going to be more so Ahsoka and Thrawn, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like the Rebels crew in general, I suppose.
The Rebels crew in general have a history with Thrawn, which is good for the Ahsoka show, not good for the Mandalorian show.
It's been interesting because I know they're also bringing in Mon Mothma into the Ahsoka show, and her, being leader within the Rebel Alliance in the early days, where Thrawn was also the prevalent threat he was.
Are you saying there could be a very good thematic parallel between Mon Mothma and Thrawn, Nathan?
I'm not saying.
I think you're on something. Is the show going to do something with that?
No, Evan. No, I'm not saying it because every time we say shit,
I know
it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. And I think it won't happen, but I think
I dare Andor to tie into this.
I don't think it will happen. Mon Mothma and Thrawn are just two interesting characters in terms of leaders and what they want. Granted, that's something that we could talk about, but it's something that I don't think the show is ever going to dive into. Because I think Thrawn is mostly going to be concerned about, or at least the writers, Filoni, is mostly concerned about the relationship between Thrawn and Ahsoka. And I think there was something interesting there, kind of. Even then in Rebels, Thrawn and Ahsoka weren't really a dynamic at all, right? Am I wrong? It's mostly
no,
Thrawn.
Ahsoka was questioned if she was still
gone.
alive.
Yeah, she was still gone, but during that time. So yeah,
Thrawn was season 3, right? Like he came in.
It was mostly Thrawn and Hera, Thrawn and Sabine, Thrawn and Ezra, Thrawn and Kanan. Like Thrawn and the Rebels crew had a dynamic.
Thrawn and the Bendu.
Thrawn and the Bendu, exactly. More so than Moff Gideon and Din ever had. But yeah, so it does worry me with Thrawn and Din moving forward, because those are like our central hero versus our central antagonist moving forward. Yeah. But speaking about the Ahsoka show, what they talked about is like that Thrawn in the aspect of the Force is a relationship that they'll dive into, and I think that's interesting because Ahsoka, of course, is the Jedi during this time period, outside of Luke. But is Luke going to be in this at all? I keep forgetting that Luke's a thing during this time. So
if
they wanted to, Luke could easily be the main character. But
if they push the technology.
But yeah, it's much easier to have Ahsoka be the main person, just have Luke being like, "You guys got this."
It's funny, right? Because like if they were, it's weird because if they really wanted to use them as central characters and like really adapt Heir of the Empire like that, they could just do young Luke, Han, and Leia like that if they so wished.
They so easily could do that, but I think they're smarter than that. I'll give them credit for that. And they're like, we have Din, we have Sabine, we have Ahsoka. Let's let our Rebels crew and our Mando crew be the main heroes versus Thrawn. Sure. Let's have Luke, Han, and Leia take a back seat, because they easily could appear in the show and in the movie if they wanted to.
Yeah,
but that would be awful. Can you imagine Luke, Han, and Leia on Filoni's movie poster versus Thrawn?
That's the thing is, like, even if they did appear, I can't see them being above cameos because that's an expensive ass effect.
Exactly.
But going back to the Darksaber destruction, because that's where I wanted to bring up mine.
Sure. Sorry.
Like we said before, great thematic themes of the nature overtaking the industrial, the big themes. There's great moments within the fight with Gideon. I love his armor. You can hear and physically see he has like robotic enhancement strength. He's more machine now than man.
Yeah, that was cool.
Twisted.
Very twisted.
But just the prevalence of his fighting is really cool. I think what would have been interesting, picture if you will, we didn't blow up the clones. They broke out and they're coming into this final fight. And bear with me. Now they're here, and it seems, all is lost. He just destroyed the Darksaber, and Gideon has this great line in the finale where he's like, "Mandalorians are nothing without their trinkets." In that vein, calling them no better than the Empire in that sense. When you think thematically, but then picture in that moment when all seems lost and they're back into a corner and they don't have, their great weaponry to defend themselves with. What, how do you stop us? What can you do? And then boom, out of nowhere, nature taking over. That's when the Mythosaur could arise. Instead of moving away from the physical embodiment of the Darksaber being led, and then here's our true great symbol, the Mythosaur that we've long since seen, and then really like destroying the area where all his clones are, takes out the clones, take out the whole plan. That ultimate Gideon being brought down by the ultimate symbol of the Mandalorians that he's been trying to snub out for so long. That'd
been great. Like, if Favreau wasn't so reliant on monsters previously, I would like it even more. But this it would feel like yet another big monster appearing in the show. Okay. But I agree, though. I think symbolically that would make a lot more sense. Like, symbolically, we've always been saying, like, is Din going to ride the Mythosaur? Is the Mythosaur going to be doing something? For now, it just seems to be a symbol. And maybe in the movie, your idea may come to pass. But I agree. That would have been a very interesting idea.
If now it feels like the show's pulling me in two ways, because when we started out, Bo was the one who saw the Mythosaur, and then she was pretty hung up about it. It's like, maybe that'll be my new emblem. She keeps thinking about it. She's talking about it. She's really fazed by it. And then, after a certain point, we don't really check up on her about it then. And then now Grogu's making the connection to it. So it's like, what are we doing?
The show basically didn't really complete its full circle moment with Bo-Katan in the Mythosaur moment.
And Din is with neither of those symbols that I thought he would be with. So it's like, he literally, I mean, we talked about the idea of like his regression, which we
at the beginning of the season, it was blatant.
Yeah, that he
needed to be
again.
saved.
I need to clip the marriage story. You've regressed, but we thought like, okay, well, he'll overcome it by the season, and then not only did we not really tackle the cover he's a part of, but also he's back taking those odd jobs of snuffing out the bad guys and just chilling with his child. I don't know. I mean, he's more selective, but like,
it's interesting.
It feels like we've made the full circle.
It feels like we made the full circle, but at what cost, right? Where it's just like he regressed in the beginning of the season, but did the season discuss that regression? Not really, because after he got redeemed, he kind of like twiddled his thumbs while Bo-Katan had the most majority of the storytelling. And I thought I was cool with that. But then again, Din's personal journey took a back seat. And I think that comes full circle here with the ending where it's just like, I'm taking odd jobs now, but I'm focused on the Imperials. And that's where it's like, oh, it's a progression because in the beginning, he did not like the New Republic, as in season 1. But now he's willing to work for them, doing what he likes doing, but with Grogu and as a father now. That's cool and all. But again, I think the journey to get there was a bit rocky, and it doesn't feel earned as much as I wanted it to, and it doesn't feel as much as it doesn't feel as much as like a pleasant, heroic journey, because he didn't really challenge himself to get to this point. But I totally agree with what you're saying. It's just like, we're here, we're there, I like it, but what's next, and what did it take to get there? Not much, basically. Again, I think the biggest sin for this season was like Din's personal journey didn't get the depth that I was expecting, given the end of season 2.
It's weird. It's not that we haven't had like a lot of great moments within the show, but now where we've ended off this one, it does feel like we've kind of like reached a stalemate while we've made some backdoor pilots along the way, right? We let the pirate escape. He'll be in Skeleton Crew. Ahsoka's off to find Thrawn. That'll be her show.
Thrawn's mentioned again. That's teasing for Ahsoka. So the rest of my notes is stuff that we already mentioned. Din adopts Grogu, but that already happened. But then Din never confronts them. So most of my notes, you just already talked about. So I wrote down here, the armor was never bad, right? That was one of our big predictions. Armor was never bad. She was pretty positive, open to others. So that's good. But again, as I mentioned, the Children of the Watch, the armor as a whole grew to be more open, but her initial ideals with like the whole redemption stuff was never really challenged by Din. She never got a one-on-one with Din as I was hoping for this season. Again, just those small character moments that the show is just ignoring and not really spending time to really gravitate towards. But again, he lives peacefully in Navarro by the end.
Which, granted, that's what we wanted.
It's what I wanted, right?
Not yet.
It's like in Bad Batch season 2. Again, going back to Bad Batch, which I think had a better narrative structure in season 2 than this season. It's like the crew going to Pabu and saying, "We're good, we're done." And now we'd have been like, "Yeah, that's what we want," but the journey to get there, you're ignoring a lot of other stuff, like what's going on with the clones. It's like them ending season 2.
We're Echo now.
What?
Well, then it's like we're Echo now. The audience has become Echo in that sense.
The audience has become Echo, where it's just like, we can do more. We should do more. But what's next, right? But it's just like, it leaves it very stale. And this is interesting to me. Where the finale for season 2, I was like not vibing with because I felt like it was doing a lot in terms of Luke coming in, ruining the moment between Bo-Katan and Moff Gideon and Din. And then I did love the emotional moment between Din and Grogu leaving, separating. That was great. But I think for me, the season 2 finale is a bit messy. And the back half of season 2 as a whole was a bit messy. But this season as a whole was messy. And the finale, unlike season 2 where it left me like, oh boy, this one just left me like just hollow. It felt hollow. Where I'm like, I like where we went, but it's so pleasant. It's so heartwarming. I really, really like that. Yeah. I love it when Star Wars goes full heartwarming. But again, I just felt, I gotta use the word again, it just felt hollow, where I just felt like, man, we got there, but I felt like Din is still incomplete in terms of like his personal journey. And the sad thing is, I don't think stuff like him challenging or questioning the creed is ever a possibility. I don't think it's ever going to happen in the future, especially after this finale.
Not anymore.
Because then it would just be retreading stuff that doesn't now need to be retread.
We also had
So yeah,
a lot of things we were saying about Din is like he feels pretty blank canvas. We don't no hobbies, no interests really.
Yeah, we still don't know a lot about Din. It's just a lot of his stuff is all,
we know that he's cool and he likes his son.
He's cool and he loves his son. Again, the show is choosing to put its heart in terms of the writing. The heart of the writing is all on Din's relationship with Grogu and Din's relationship with Bo-Katan in terms of like accepting who she is.
Yeah.
And again, I love that scene in episode 7 where he's like, he puts his hand on his chest. I choose to follow you because of the honor that you exhibit. Something along those lines, whatever. That was a great scene.
Yeah,
but
he is a loyal character.
He's a loyal character. But I think we all figured he was loyal to a fault. Where it was like, oh, he's loyal to a fault. He will soon realize this, and he will come to leave the watch, or at least challenge the watch, or at least change the watch from within. None of that ever happened on a personal level for Din. And I think that's the biggest letdown for me, where I'm like, I appreciate Din as a character, but, and again, it goes back to him not even removing the mask this season. It just feels so emotionally not fully there.
We had a lot of initial praise for the first couple seasons that, you know, despite the limited amount of screen time of physically seeing Pedro's face, the physical acting really comes through, and it's you know, really captivating.
Yes.
But we were all in a stage of, you know, setting up these character motivations, and we still got to the points where we were able to get vulnerable with Din every time he's taken off his helmet. He's been extremely vulnerable. This season, granted, we had Book of Boba Fett, but you know, I don't fault that because that was a sidetrack in another person's show. This one, I mean, apparently a large chunk of the Mandalorian, in terms of filming on set, Pedro was busy with The Last of Us, so it wasn't him in the suit really.
Yeah.
So he's mainly just doing ADR, and then, you know, we never get a mask off. We have not seen Din without his mask off since the season 2 finale.
Such a big missed opportunity, and not missed opportunity, just a big issue with the show. We need to see these vulnerable moments. We need to see these big character moments for Din.
Yeah, and
that comes with his mask just being off. It's cool being a masked character, but the show needs to be more than that.
Yeah, like
even needs to be more than that. Yeah.
You know, and granted, you know, we've had like sentiments about, I mean, Vader, right? Vader, majority of the trilogy, he has a mask on. He's you know, primarily just a villain in the first movie, but the second one gets interesting when you realize, oh wait, he's the father of our hero.
And his interactions with Luke in the Phantom, in Luke and Han and the heroes in The Empire Strikes Back is what makes him the iconic character that we know of today.
And then when he gets and when he gets to Return of the Jedi, obviously he's still trying to be like stone faced, but you know, you hear the sadness in his voice from time to time when he's talking to his son.
It's famous. One of the best scenes of all Star Wars when he's not sitting, but you know, with Luke on Endor before they go up to the ship, where he's just like looking at the lightsaber, There's no light left in me, something along those lines. Where it's just like, oh man, there's some great stuff between Luke and Vader.
Yeah, and you know, even though it's very limited out of the mask time, when we do see him with his mask off, and then later in a Force Ghost in that conclusion chapter, he's happy, right? He's fulfilled. He's fulfilled. He's made it to an end game that he's at peace. Whereas where we are with Din, yes, he's at peace, but again, we haven't seen his face, and every time we've seen him, he's been sad. The last time we saw him, he was sad. I was saying this the other day on Twitter. Just, you know, we deserve to see Din physically happy with his son. Like, that was a weird thing too. Is like they're secluded right in their hut, and we know from the words established that like a family group can see each other in private quarters. So, you know, you're in that final scene. Why not let Din chill on the porch without his helmet?
That could have been so easy, right? Just like him embracing being with his son. And we learn from Bo-Katan taking off his helmet, looking through the camera, or at least look at Din or something to show growth. But no, he just like sits cross-legged. It's like a Western. It's like, yep, that's the end.
It's like I just need like 10 seconds, man. 10 seconds of happy Din without his helmet. Like I know you can do it because you did a Vanity Fair photo shoot with everybody. Green screen him in real quick. You have the technology.
It wouldn't be that hard at all. Granted, we're not in production, so maybe it could have been hard. But yeah, you're right. That's a big phrase there, Nathan, where you said like last time you saw him, he was sad, and the show never chose to bring that up again in season 3. He was sad when he lost Grogu. He's happy when we got him back. But then, can we have him? I'm not saying I want Din to be sad, but I want him to feel some kind of emotion about what he went through in terms of taking off the helmet, and then like his reaction. I keep going back to it. His reaction to having to redeem himself. It was never looked at as a bad thing, which is part of their culture. And yeah, I think that had a big effect on Din's journey that really working for me this season.
Even if we still have to stay behind the mask, I want more emotion from Din. He's always been like a man of few words, but like I would love, again, we said like the perfect point for him to get a contestant would be when finding out that Bo is graced by the armor to take his helmet off, but he was, you know,
that
secluded.
Was shocking. The show never dived into that.
It would be a great moment to like really, because you know the rare bit we've heard Din be angry, it's been like the quickest lines ever. But you gotta just go full blown monologue, angry, calling out, like that would have been something. Yeah. Like I'm feeling something different that I hadn't even felt under that mask before.
I agree, and I like that Din was so quickly accepting of Bo-Katan, right?
Yeah,
that was appreciative, but also at the same time,
yeah, I'm not asking him to be mad at Bo, but the person who put him on this path of seclusion, he kicked him out from everybody, and then he goes to fulfill it. He's ultimately the one to, yeah, and he's ultimately the one to, you know, reveal to everybody, oh, Mandalore's fine, we can go. Fuck, man.
Yeah, right. Like the show never dived into those personal journeys, those personal consequences. It's so surface level. It's so surface level that it doesn't get into what the show itself is putting down. These are things that we're thinking about because Jon Favreau wrote about it. He wrote it. He acted out Pedro being so emotional leaving Grogu.
We've only been giving notes in regards to the functionality of themes within the Star Wars universe, if not specifically to the show that they're presenting to us.
In that episode in Book of Boba Fett, Din was shocked and upset to be like, well, I took off my helmet to save Grogu, right? But then like he was shocked, but then he was accepted of him having to redeem himself. Mm-hmm. But I'm just like, the show never really went back to that moment to be like, yeah, Din, Armor, it's like, can we discuss what happened? But he just rejoins the group, and it's so happy from him joining the group onwards that him being peaceful was just another attribute to that, where it's just like, it was so uphill for Din, there was never really a down moment besides him just getting taken prisoner in the finale, and then he gets freed anyways. Yeah. It's just, there was never a, you know, a good. We talked about there's The Last of Us in terms of like the triangle, right? In terms of like up and down. There was never a down moment for Din this season. There was never like a hurdle for Din this season that I can think of, unless I'm wrong. Somebody please leave it in the comments if I'm wrong. But like, there was never really a big emotional hurdle for him this season.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, emotional is the key word. I mean, like, yeah, the man's got kidnapped once or twice.
Yeah, but physical hurdles, but like season 1, the emotional hurdle of him like growing, and season 1 I think is more blatant, whereas like he's growing to be somebody having to take care of somebody else for the first time in his life, when he is so used to others taking care of him. Like season 1, we got a flashback to him being a foundling. It's like, oh wow, so he has to move beyond that, move beyond his bounty hunter ways, take care of somebody that's new to him. IG-11 droids that took away his parents, having to remove his mask so a droid can save his life. These are things the show was diving into in season 1 that we were just like, wow, that's good shit.
Yeah.
And then season 2, him having to take away or deliver Grogu to Luke, the emotional goodbye, and him being confronted with Bo-Katan for the first time in season 2. It's just like there's so many ideological and emotional hurdles there in season 2. But then season 3, there wasn't any hurdles emotionally, personally for him.
Yeah, even like the CSI episode when he's like angry at droids. It doesn't really
fly.
Yeah, it doesn't really like block him emotional journey wise.
No, it's mostly made for comedy.
Yeah, and it's wild because I think back to like the second episode after Bo saved Din and gave him that soup that she grew up on that he never had, and then she was like, what? No, any child in Mandalore is experienced it, basically, just diving into like those pastimes of fond memories growing up, and building that camaraderie, and yes, granted they are friends, they have a friendship, but the thought of like deepening it to like the lost aspect of the culture he didn't get to grow up in, where he was, because he was in that cult. Imagine breaking out of that shell and like experiencing it, and then now an even better prompt would be like, okay, let me pull out of that to follow this way for the betterment of my child Grogu.
I totally agree with you there. That was something I really loved about episode 2.
But we keep trying to put Grogu into this cult.
Yeah, and Grogu as a whole was very disappointing this season. Where I feel like, and it's not nothing original on what I'm going to say here, but it felt like they needed him back for this season just because. Like,
I think he's primarily just being teed up as a symbol.
Yeah, he much more symbolic thing than a character, which is unfortunate to say, because Grogu was such a good character in the first 2 seasons, but in this season he just felt like a symbol of like a new foundling joining the culture, embracing Bo and Din as both parents theoretically to Grogu. So Grogu's like the in-between of both sides, hence why he like stopped both sides from fighting last week, as we mentioned. He's like a symbol, right? A symbol of both sides, what they can be in 3 sides, as in the Jedi, right? But this season Grogu had no journey whatsoever. He was
knighted.
He was stop it. Knighted by Lizzo.
He was legally knighted.
Nice. But yeah, he was just there this season. But yeah, that's kind of it. But other things I gotta mention, just the series as a whole, like we get IG-11 or IG-12 gets destroyed during the fight.
Yeah.
But then the show just brings back IG-11 as a new marshal. It's like, IG-11 has a great sacrifice. Well, here he is again. We have IG-11 being the new marshal, just reprogrammed. And then we have Mando's get Navarro. They immediately go to Mandalore. Darksaber gets brought back to Bo-Katan, immediately destroyed. There's a lot of things that this season gives and then takes. The payoffs for a lot of these moments initially are just not fully satisfying, which I think is the season 3 as a whole. There's a lot of interesting ideas they could have paid off from season 2 that aren't really fulfilled to their best potential in season 3.
Yeah. I'm constantly in storytelling on Time Blazer. I'm constantly in a state of every time I bring in ideal, wanted to have a payoff or interconnected to something else. I wanted to have a through line. I never wanted to be a thing where it's like, okay, we have this thing. Cool, you did it. Drop it. I never want to do it. Even I'll think of scenes where I'm like, this sounds really cool. I don't know how I would do it though, so I'm gonna set it aside because I like it, but I'm not going to force it in until randomly I'll be walking down the street, listen to music one day, and then it'll come to me and be like, oh, this would be a great point to put it in here to have it unravel, and then that's how it could fit like fluently and thematically enriched, cool, and I have a purpose. Let's go. I did it. That's nice. So now it works fine. But like you're saying, the stuff with like the Darksaber in, out, stuff like that, it's like it hurts.
Yeah. It's like you're allowed to build things up and just let it grow. But I think
you are a show.
Yeah, you are a show. But I think Favreau is just like, here's an idea, let's resolve it. Like IG-11 sacrificing himself, becoming a symbol for Navarro, but then coming back and becoming their new marshal, and it's just like, then what was the point with IG-12 then? Like, I thought we were growing beyond it, but now we're reverting back. And I like that IG-11 is now
marshal.
He's a marshal, but yeah, he was already good by the season finale of season 1. So what am I saying?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying, but it just felt like we're just back to normal for IG-11, back to normal for Navarro, back to normal for Din and Grogu, who are now united, but back to normal.
And now there's no Gideon for now, but I mean, it's back in Beskar.
Oh my gosh! But we didn't mention, but yeah, Mandalore is back too. Mandalore is back. The Great Forge. Mandalore is all united, setting the stage perfectly for like Mandalore being a big unit to stand against the Imperial Remnant, as they feared. They were like, we can't have. That's why they sent reinforcements to Gideon in the first place, because we can't have Mandalore getting that recognition from the New Republic and being a big force in the Outer Rim against the Imperial Remnant. So it's coming. That battle against the Empire is not over yet.
Nope.
So yeah, I don't really have any predictions for season 4 because it didn't leave us with any. Besides, Thrawn is coming. We know that.
My only predictions really involve the lead ups of Heir to the Empire.
Exactly. Yeah, which is
and
mostly going to be in Ahsoka.
Yeah, and at that stage, like I said, the only way I'm seeing bringing Din back into the fold is if his connection to Mandalore, which will be pulled on by Sabine's connection to it.
Mm-hmm. But I can see the season 4 trailer now. It's like him doing some Imperial stuff or fighting against Imperials, and him uncovering something, saying, pause, there's something we have to do, but the New Republic's too slow to act. And then, season 4 is going to be him doing these Imperial missions, building up to Thrawn.
It feels like I'm not seeing this this lone Avenger until the big crossover.
I guess not. I don't know.
I don't know how soon is Filoni's movie in conjunction.
Know.
Well, I don't know. Did I hear that they may be rolling with filming season 4 this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Which makes sense. But I think season 4 is set for 2025 for sure. Mm-hmm. Definitely not next year. But yeah, next year we're getting Acolyte and Andor. Ooh. That's sick. That's a gift from the god right there.
Yeah. Ahsoka this year. Is it Skeleton Crew this year?
Skeleton Crew might be this year. I'm thinking either December or January in that Boba Fett spot. Yeah, Mando in season 5, which is gonna be 2025. That's when the first movie comes out, the Rey movie.
Right.
So if anything, Filoni's movie could be 2027. So we get Mando in 2025, Ahsoka season 2 in 2026, and then Mando movie in 2027.
Maybe.
But I'll be in my 30s. Oof.
Book of Boba Fett season 2.
Maybe, if they wanted to.
A whole new project, maybe.
A whole new world.
Rebels season 5.
Please.
but it's live action.
They go to animation and Rebels to live action, so I'll go back to animation. Oh, that'd be great.
What are the odds we see a flashback Kanan in live action?
Oh God, Freddy.
No, they wouldn't get Freddy. I think Freddy even said himself he's done.
Yeah. There's no how you do Kanan without getting Freddy. Kanan's I don't know.
You cast a darker skinned man, for one.
Good point.
But yeah, you know.
But yeah, that was our last Mandalorian discussion. But Nathan, Hyperspace hype, we're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep it going.
Oh, they're gonna say hiatus hype.
No.
Spring break.
We might take a week off. I don't know. But in the future, we discussed like off air, on air, whatever. Like we're gonna be doing more like Clone Wars commentaries, Rebels commentaries in the future, and also we want to bring back those like discussions that we had early on in the early stages of Hyperspace hype. Like best Rey, Finn, Kylo moments, what we love about the sequel trilogy, what we love about the prequels and the original trilogy, just like overall big interesting discussions about certain things about Star Wars that we love, spreading what we love, right? So I just want to do some of that in the meantime before Ahsoka comes back in August. We have a long time between May, June, July to talk about.
We have the whole summer.
We have the whole summer, yeah, to dive into whatever we want to talk about. So,
all right,
wide open.
Let's talk about Tross.
And yeah, we could. And if people have ideas for like stuff, put it in the comments. Please like, subscribe, leave it in the comments for, hey, can you guys talk about this?
Yeah.
You know, rumors.
Even spotlight your comments. Join us live.
Yes.
We'll just do live Q&A, whatever you want to discuss, broke down. You know, we're pretty knowledgeable about this universe, if not to boast.
Just don't say like, what's the ship name here? We don't know that. I don't know.
We're here for Historian themes.
Historian themes, yes.
I'm not the man I once were listening to YouTube videos on end.
Me too, dude. Me too. But yeah, this was fun. This was good.
Absolutely. Well, that's it, huh? Where am I? Where am I in High Republic?
Oh yeah, where are you, buddy?
They have slowed down the thing.
Oh yeah, like not the shrapnel, but just basically like the
people that are on the thing. I think I'm 10 minutes to impact.
Oh wait, it hasn't hit impact yet?
No.
Oh wow.
I'm on the cusp. I'm on the brink.
Well, okay, that's shit's getting great. Yeah, shit's getting great. So you're halfway through the book.
Thanks for your help, Master Jedi. Dude on the. Have you heard the audiobook of Mark Thompson?
Not at all.
Oh my god. What have I done? At what cost?
You sound like Echo, or not Echo, Omega.
Oh no, I meant to start. It was like a Southern trucker, if anything, of the dude who's like, "Hey, if you could slow down by 1%."
Is he the tech one, like the one like fixing up all the robots and stuff to like?
He's the dude who's like firing the cables to, I think, help drag it back.
Okay.
Okay.
There.
Early teens chapter.
Early in the teens. Okay.
I haven't read 44 chapters.
Yeah.
You figure I would have made it by now. I just been going through some stuff.
You're in the thick of it, but it gets better and better as you get to the middle of the second half of the book, where it's like, oh shit.
I was scrolling through Twitter and I was just seeing that cover of Starlight Beacon falling to the planet surface, and I'm just like, there's a lot of chapters ahead of me.
Yeah,
there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of hurt.
There's hurt in this book, and then in Writing Storm.
I haven't even gotten to the damn beacon.
That's really crazy to me. You're right. You haven't even gotten Starlight.
Only in like the prologue passage, just like they're looking to launch Starlight. I don't even know if it's launched yet.
Yeah, I think it's just in space, but just like lights are off.
Turn on the lights here.
Turn on the brights.
Well, anyway, where can I find you?
Oh, for me, I'm enjoying Star Wars. I just tweeted out before I went live here. I'm enjoying the hell out of the High Republic Phase 2 Cataclysm, the last adult novel in Phase 2. The big Kevin Scott, what's it called? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. Kevin Scott's YA book that ends Phase 2.
Into the Dark.
Oh, not Into the Dark. Path of Vengeance. comes out very soon. I'm thrilled. I can't wait for that. But Cataclysm is getting into this planet called Donna. And this has to be, I tweeted it out, the planet that just straight up gives me chills. I haven't felt these kind of chills when this planet is mentioned or when characters are on this planet in quite some time, maybe ever for Star Wars. Or I'm just reading it, I'm like, I need you to get out of this planet because I'm worried for you. Ever since I read Star Wars Path of Deceit, which was the first Phase 2 book, I'm like, Donna needs to go. But yeah, it's great. But Donna was actually teased as a planet, not teased, but they were mentioned Donna in the last middle grade book called Mission to Disaster.
Oh.
I think that's the title. A Phase 1. And that kind of teased what we're seeing here in Phase 2. So it's all connected, Phase 1, Phase 2. But anyways, High Republic, Cataclysm's great. Every chapter, every character story beat is very interesting. Because usually when reading these Star Wars books, there are certain chapters I'm like, can you get back to these characters? But I'm loving every single character in Cataclysm. It's very much like Last Jedi, or not Last Jedi, but Light of the Jedi, or Rising Storm, or Fallen Star, where it's just like every chapter, every character I'm invested in. So yeah, I love Star Wars. So follow me, Harris EV9 for all things Star Wars. It's the weekend, so I'm watching a lot of anime. So got a lot of anime thoughts. Oshinoko, Hell's Paradise, Heavenly Delusion, Ancient Mage's Bride, Mashal, Witch from Mercury. What else am I watching? Barry, Succession. All these shows I watch on Friday, Saturday, Sundays. A lot of shows. I didn't even watch Top Chef yet.
Oh,
fuck.
Jail.
So a lot of shows, a lot of books. I'm watching Beef. I watched 2 episodes of Beef before I went live here as well.
I'm a chicken guy.
I'm just gonna let that simmer there.
Have you heard? Josh has been saying that joke to Trey every day.
Not great.
So Beef is a show?
Yes.
Oh, it was a movie.
It's
I saw it on Letterboxd. I was like, oh. Oh, it was listed on Letterboxd. I was like, oh.
Is it? Maybe it's a limited series. That's why I'm not sure. But Beef is great. Ali Wong, Stephen Yeun, fantastic, great show. I'm halfway through right now. I'm on episode 5 out of 10. What else am I watching? That's about it. I saw Evil Dead Rise. Go to my Twitter for my thoughts on Evil Dead Rise. If you followed us on My Cup of Tea, we did a whole commentary the last 4 weeks about Evil Dead 1, 2, and 3, and then Evil Dead 2013 this week, and then Evil Dead Rise this weekend.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah. Next week, new commentaries. We're going to do Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special.
Yeah. Been big reserve. It's about time. Christmas had dropped, man.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh man. But I'm watching Succession right now. I'm in the middle of season 2. I think I got 3 more episodes. Or no, I think I got more. I think I just finished episode 5. There's 10 episodes a season. I'm halfway. I'm so used to the 8 episode format now. Things are getting dicey. It's like, oh yeah, Shiv, yeah, you'll definitely leave the company. I won't say it though. Oh my god, everything's getting dicey. Greg met with the publicist. Fucking.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that play. Yeah.
Oh man, I really thought it's funny because I thought from memory that Ted was going to be a lot more of an asshole to Greg than I initially thought. I mean, he is, but like
Tom.
Yeah, Tom to Greg. But they've been pretty. I guess it was just the start. Just kind of like asserting the dominance, as you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really interesting dynamics. Tom's fucking falling apart from what I'm seeing. I don't envy this man.
That was the goat. But yeah, I mean, yeah, because season 2, he's going through it. He's going through it in terms of like,
yeah.
Don't want to get
not a great marriage.
Not at all, boy.
None of these people are good people. But although Greg seems, I don't know, he's blackmailing people now. But
yeah, I must say, Greg's not great.
Well, he's being even when he's like, God. It's so odd. But anyway, you can find me at _TimeBlazer making a show called Time Blazer. A lot of updates always coming to the Twitter. Trailers being worked on, coming out soon. going to be starting a new job, so I'm hoping it's not too much of an hindrance. It times always very beats. I really need to convene again with you, Evan, who's creative consultant, by the way. Just about the path of everything and where things go. But yeah,
I'd love to.
Exciting times.
Oh, real quick.
That means that if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you hit the like button.
Wait. We're 1 week away from Jedi Survivor coming out. Jedi Survivor comes out next Friday. That's gonna be huge.
And we wanted to start doing streams for that.
Yep, exactly. So
gameplay stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait to do that. So I can't wait. I'm almost finished with Horizon Forbidden West. I wanted to complete that before Jedi Survivor, so I'm diving deep into it this weekend. So we shall see.
Nice. Well, anyway, if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like button, subscribe, and already ring that bell to see us future installments and coverage on all things Star Wars. And that being said, I hope you have a great day. May the Force be with you always.